welcome everyone to another lecture. In tonight's lecture, we will be going over some games that I have played recently. It's called Grandmaster's Choice, so let's go ahead and get started. So, as some of you guys might know, I play a lot in the St. Louis Classics that take place over here. And the St. Louis Classics are pretty nice tournaments to play. They have an average rating over 2600. It's full of it's all grandmasters. It's a round robin, and so you're pretty much guaranteed to get some good practice because you'll play 9 games against strong opposition. So in the Spring Classic, I lost the first game, and I was really struggling in the beginning. But then I found my footing a little bit. I made 3 draws. But in round number 5, I was up against Sam Sevian, and in Sam Sevian, he was one of the leaders. He was on 2.5 out of 4. I was on 1.5, so I wanted to try to, move up in the standings and try to put some pressure on him with the white pieces. Also, the day before this, Sam had to defend for like 150 moves against Darius Sriert, so I figured that he would probably be tired, and I should therefore use my chances. So I opened the game up with the move 1d4. This is how I usually play. He played knight of 6. I played c4. He played e6. So with the move e6. He's intending to play the Nimzo Indian defense after knight c3 and bishop to b4. Now, I also played against Sam in the 2021 World Cup in Russia, and there we had 2 games in which I played queen to c2. I won 1 game and in the classical, but he drew in the rapid. And queen to 2 is a variation I play quite a lot, so I feel like he is going to be very well prepared this time around. So I played the Catalan, also a very good opening. So he played d5, bishop to g2. And here there's many things black can do. Black can go for the move bishop to b4 check. There's bishop e7. There's also takes on c4, which is the move he played. And knight f3, and after knight f3, here again, black has a lot of options. Black has this extra pawn, and they can choose how they decide to want to hang on to it, or just return the extra pawn. There's a move like bishop e4 check. There's c6, there's a6, there's knight c6, knight bd7. And there's also the move c5, and that is what Sam played in this game. Move c5 is what Sam almost always plays, and I cancelled. He played knight c6, and here white has some options. I can go for the move queen a4, there's takes, there's moves like knight e5, but I went for the move d takes c5. And I saw that he goes into this endgame with queen takes d1, rook takes, and bishop takes c5. And generally, white can hope for a very small advantage here. We're going to get this pawn back, and I do that with the move knight bd2, taking the pawn. Black goes c3. There's no good way to hang on to the pawn, so black just returns the pawn, but damages my pawn structure in the process and castles. And now some of you guys might be thinking here, like, well, why is this endgame, like, why would you go for this endgame with white? Right, the material's equal, black's got pretty reasonable development, and they've got the better pawn structure for now. But the thing white is usually hoping for is this bishop on g2, which is better than the bishop on c8, which is kind of passive over here for now. So I played the move knight b3. He played bishop b7, and I played c4. Another move here is the move knight of d4 to open up the bishop right away and put pressure on the knight on c6. So c4. Now Sam develops his bishop with bishop d7, and I go bishop b2, putting some pressure on this knight on f6, which is defending the bishop on d7. So Sam played rook fd8. And again, the funny thing is, Sam often plays this variation, so I had quite a bit of time to prepare. So I try to prepare deeply for him, and I think I came with some good preparation. I played the move knight fd4. All of this still has been played. Again, I want to put pressure on this knight over here. He plays rook ac8. I play knight b5. He plays b6. All of this again is still theory, and I played the move knight d6, attacking his rook on c8. Now here black has some options. He decided to trade off his bishop for my knight on d6. Black can also go for the move rook c7, and here some games have ended in a move repetition after knight b5, rook c8 and knight d6. But if white wants to keep the game going, there's also moves like bishop to a3. Alright, but Sam decided to take on d6, I recapture, and bishop to e8. And in this game we were both moving very, very quickly. Alright, so after bishop e8, he's offering a trade of bishops. I take, he recaptures, and as we see now, white has the advantage of the bishop pair. But again, black has the slightly better pawn structure. This pawn on c4 is a little bit weak, so I defend it with rook to c1, and here he neutralizes my advantage of the bishop pair by going bishop to c6. there's no good way to keep the bishops on the board. I mean, I can go f3 here, but here you can't really talk about the advantage of the bishop pair, because my bishop on g2 right now is passive. So I played the move c5. Again, this was still all my preparation. And with the move c5, I want to get rid of my isolated pawn and give him a slight weakness on b6. So he takes, I recapture, he plays knight d7, I take on b6, he takes on c1, and I recapture. Question for everyone in the audience on Twitch and on YouTube. If white tries to be clever here with the move pawn takes a7, what does black play here? Can anyone tell me the move here for black? What does black play into this position? What does black play? This is not a good move, but can anyone tell me why? I mean, it doesn't look so silly. We want a queen over here. The rook is still under attack. But what does black play here? And in a situation like this, where there's two problems for black, this a-pawn and the rook, you often want to look for a move that solves both problems at the same time. Indeed, as the casual player has pointed out, the move is rook to c8. Rook c2 doesn't solve the issue. It solves the issue of the rook, but not the issue of the a-pawn. White queens and white's winning. But indeed, rook c8 and black is winning. All right, so Sam took here, I recapture with the bishop, and he goes pawn takes b6. Now, here we were still following the game that Sam played a year earlier with the black pieces against Ray Robson in the American Cup. And so we see that white can perhaps hope for a very small advantage. I played the move king f3, and I'll explain why white might be a little bit better. My king is more active than his. This pawn on b6 is a very slight weakness. Besides, I feel like my knight and bishop have the potential to be better than his two knights, because his two knights can do the same job, but my knight and bishop can do different jobs, so to speak. All right, so after the move king f3, now Sam played the move f5. He's stopping my king from marching up the board. Okay, so I play king e3. I want to go king d4. And now Sam plays e5, again, stopping my king from walking up. And here I played the move g4, a pawn sacrifice. Now Sam played the move g6, but question to everyone in the audience on Twitch and on YouTube, what is white's idea in case black actually goes ahead and takes this pawn over here? What is white's idea? Why do I just give up that pawn like that? What do we want to do here? What is the idea behind sacrificing the pawn? Exactly. Here we go, king e4. And black cannot stop us from going king d5. In case they go here, then we can go ahead and take here. And in case black goes, let's say king f7, we go king d5. And again, white has a good position. The king is going to come in. The pawn over here is weak. There's ideas like bishop to g5 to take this knight, or king d6 for the moment. And in case of king e7, I can go, let's say, one of these moves, either bishop g5 or although bishop g5 there might be here. I think it might be bishop a3 here, followed by king d6, if I recall correctly. And black is running serious risk here. My king is walking in, this pawn is weak, and he has trouble creating a pass pawn for now on the king side. Right, so taking is risky. Sam played the move g6. I took, he recaptured, and now I played the move f4. Again, I want to open up squares so my king can go in. All right, so here, let's say black goes e4. e4 is not a good move here for black. Actually, due to multiple reasons. We can go king d4, but also a good move is knight d4, and there's no good way to protect this. All right, so in my preparation, I looked at some moves here. Sam played the move knight e6. There's also the move king f7, but again, we see in this endgame that white always has a slight edge because this pawn is weak, this pawn is weak. My king is more active than his. So the question really is like, can black hold or is white gonna win? And that's really not a bad position you want to be in, especially if you play against someone who's 80 points higher rated than you. I mean, in the worst case, the game ends in a draw. But his defense is going to be unpleasant. So Sam played the move knight e6. All right, so I took, he recaptured. And now for the moment, both his knights are stopping my king from walking up the board. So question to anyone in the audience, here in person or on Twitch and on YouTube, how can white try to pave the way for their king to move up the board? What can white do here?
You can attack with the knight.
Mm-hmm. So how?
Trade knights.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also bishop would threaten someone.
Okay.
Of course, it's not going to help you move.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go over some moves that have been suggested. Some people suggest the move bishop b2, and I think that was also the move you were aiming at, but bishop b2 unfortunately is not a good move. Can anyone tell me why? What does black do after bishop b2?
Knight c4?
Exactly.
And take bishop, yeah.
Exactly, knight c4,
Yeah.
and you win the bishop. Mm-hmm. So what is the move here then?
Now,
For
if you move your knight up the way you got your arrow there.
yeah, for some reason it's giving it away. Indeed, the move is knight d4, and the position is already quite critical for black. I mean, this knight is under attack, this pawn as well. In case black takes here, we recapture. And again, we see that even though both pawns only have 3 pawns, white's probably just winning here, because black's got a really tough time stopping my king from walking up and picking up this pawn. Like, let's say black goes here, I just go bishop f4 to defend this pawn. To king f7, king d5. You cannot stop this. I take here, and then my a pawn is just going to win the game. All right, so he played the move f4. He played the move f4. All right, so what do we do now?
King.
I want to say king e4?
Exactly, we have to go king e4. King e4, only move. Okay, so he takes on d4. All right, and here we can take 2 knights. So which knight shall we take?
The one on the left.
All right, so let's go over the moves. We can take this knight over here. The thing is, he can now take the pawn on e2. He can take the pawn on e2. We can also take this knight over here, which looks pretty good. The knight's under attack, and this pawn as well. This looks pretty good for white, right? I mean, let's say this knight was here to defend. Now again, we go for, let's say, king d5, king c6. We take the pawn, and this should be winning for white. But, Simon, is there a way to turn these arrows off?
I don't know.
I know.
So we haven't seen, we saw those arrows for the first time ever. Are you talking about how they're just pink?
Yeah.
Well, no, they're telling us what the moves are.
Yeah, they're telling...
Something up top. I don't know how they work, but there's something.
Is the engine turned on?
It's not the engine, but it's showing the move that was played in the game. Let's see.
Well, it's showing quote-unquote best move.
Kind of, yeah. Let me see if I can... I'm trying to quiz the audience here, but
Yeah.
this board it keeps giving it away.
Okay.
You've become grandmasters overnight.
Exactly. Maybe preferences.
So
I think maybe something with display, or
board highlights.
Is that what
No,
they
that's
call
different. That's
stockfish?
Valid moves and previous. I'm not sure what engine it's running. It might be Stockfish. Board coordinates.
I don't think it's necessarily the engine. I think it's just showing the move that was played in the game.
Oh no, when it gives you 2 different arrows like that, the big arrow is the recommended move.
Mm-hmm.
The smaller one you could do, like it showed moving that pawn down. So if you take, then he takes the pawn back, checks the king, and takes the other pawn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know right now. I'm gonna go and try to find someone who can help.
Yeah, I mean, if someone knows in the chat, also feel free to let us know. All right, is there... yeah, okay, this is... All right. Okay, but black has a move here. Is there no way I can turn these arrows off? Black only has one move here to stay in the game. Can anyone tell me what it is? I mean, this knight's under attack, this pawn as well. Well, black has a clever move.
Yeah, moving that pawn down like it shows with the arrow. Because if you take with the pawn, then he check and takes your other pawn.
Indeed. So f3 is the only move.
I'm moving the,
What happens in case we take the knight?
he's gonna graduate.
He's going to go f2 and his pawn is going to become a queen.
Right.
Exactly.
Take and you just play bishop d2, right?
Exactly. Takes is not good because of bishop d2. So we cannot take the knight. So indeed we have to take. All right. So here black takes on f3 and puts our king in check. And here, you know, the margin between a win and a draw is very thin because black is getting rid of a lot of pawns. Okay. So our king is in check. King c4 and king d5 are both equally good. Okay. And so king d5, black takes here. Black has to take. Because let's say they bring their king up. Now again, we can go for a move like bishop f4, defend the pawn. We win this pawn and our h-pawn stays on the board. And the h-pawn is really important because the h-pawn, this corner, is of the same color as this bishop. But the a-pawn is not. The promoting square is not of the same color of this bishop. So if black can take this pawn and somehow get their king to this corner, it's going to be a draw. But for the moment, their king is far away. So we go king c6. And here, black brought in their king as well with king to f7. All right, so how does white continue here? This move is still pretty straightforward. What does white do here?
The bishop e3 to try to trap the knight in.
Bishop e3 is possible, but we lose time. Here, black goes for a move like, let's say, king e6. Or, no, I wouldn't say king e6, I would say rather, say king e8. And wait, let me think about this for a second.
It's not doing much.
Yeah, it feels like we're just, or I guess king e6. Yeah, the arrow's, yeah. And like in case you take, black plays a move like knight f3. And the knight's moving back, like let's say you go a4, then knight e5. And it feels like black should be in time to get a defensive setup. Like here, already black can go for something like, I mean, knight c4 stops the pawn. And black also has this h-pawn, so black can create counterplay. So don't make it too difficult for yourself right here. Okay, how can I turn this stupid arrow off? What should I do here? Don't make it too difficult.
Oh, if it was me, I'd do just what it says. I'd take that pawn and start running.
Exactly. You take the pawn, black goes king e6.
You can try, but he ain't going to get you.
And now, what does white do here?
Move the pawn up too.
Exactly. We go a4, black goes king d7.
King 1.
King d7?
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look. Let's say you go king d7.
Right.
Here, black goes, think about this for a second. Black goes, wait, sorry, that's here. Black goes here, I believe. I think this was also, yeah, I think here. And again, like let's say you push the pawn now. Now the knight gets to c6, and there's no, you don't get any further. And black still has this h-pawn, right? Which also makes sure that white cannot, it's going to be very difficult for white to put black in Zugzwang.
Because it's on the white squares.
Well, it's just more that, let's say in a position like this, if you get your bishop to somehow to c7, right? Let me make some moves. Like let's say you end up in a position like this. Something like this could be a Zugzwang, but black, again, still has this h-pawn. So it's going to be very difficult to put black in Zugzwang. All right, so what should white do here? I mean, damn, can I really not turn these arrows off? I'm getting really annoyed. Let me see. What does everyone think that white should do?
King up to stop the other king from coming across.
Well, king b7 we discussed, like the knight comes back in time.
So we need to keep the knight from getting over there. Or
it's very difficult to do so because the knight has multiple routes to get back. Okay, wait. The hamburger. Wait, where is it? Yes. There we go. Thanks, Spice. Okay. The arrow is gone. Okay. So let's think here. So we see that here's the thing. We can shoulder the king, but we see that it still takes a while to push this pawn up, and in the meantime, the knight comes back. And it's quite interesting. So, like I said earlier, let's go back real quick. As I was saying earlier, I was in my preparation for a long time. I was in my preparation up until the move f4, and at this point I still had, so you start off the game with 90 minutes on the clock, and after every move, you get an additional 30 seconds on the clock. So at this moment, I had an hour and 39 minutes on the clock because I gained time from the increment. I gained with every move. So here I still played this move quickly. I thought for a little bit about this one. But these moves were still pretty forced. And I'm telling you guys, this position is not easy. Again, the margin between a win and a draw is pretty thin. So I spent my time, but after almost like an hour, I figured something out. Because a4 is good, king d7. So we see that going king here and shouldering doesn't quite work, right? So what else can we do?
If we go, which is.
Maybe do we bring the king towards the knight?
Well, that's not really the way to go, because if we bring the king back, the king just walks into the corner.
Gets to the square.
Yeah, like even if you lose the knight, it's a dead draw, because there's nothing you can do if the king reaches here. So that's really what this position is all about. Okay, there's one pretty straightforward move that I think nobody, both in the chat or in person, has suggested yet. What is also a move that white has to consider? That's pretty straightforward. Again, I don't think it's a move that has been suggested yet. I didn't see it in the chat. So we just played a4, black played king d7. So we see that with the move king d7, we want to shoulder the king and stop it from coming here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if the king gets the c8, that's not the end of the world. It's all about stopping the king from reaching here. So let's push the pawn. Now black is not in time to bring the knight back. Like let's say black goes here, we push. Let's say the knight goes here, we go a7, and black's just not in time. So indeed a5 is the move. Black doesn't have a way to stop it. Like black can also go for some checks, but it all doesn't work. Like let's say knight here, I would just push, check, and here. There's no more checks and we queen. All right, so after a5, black goes king c8. Now here there's only one move. We know that if the king reaches the corner, it's a draw, right? So what do we do here? Here,
A7 with the king.
well, king a7, then we put our king in front of the pawn, and now again the knight gets the time to get back, and this one should just be a draw. Like,
So you're taking more time to
yeah.
get promoted?
So what is a more convenient way to stop the king from reaching the corner?
I would say bishop f4.
Bishop f4, nice move, very good indeed. We stop the king from reaching the corner. All right, so here it's looking pretty good for white. We stop the king from reaching the corner, and hey, if we get a couple more moves, we go a6, a7, and we queen. So now is the question, can this knight somehow get back in time? Black's got 3 moves, then I can go here, here, or here. Well, let's say the knight goes to f3. I believe we just push. The knight has to somehow try to give the king a check, right? If the knight goes here, we can just take. If the knight goes, let's say here, we just push.
Or you
And
can take it there too, yeah.
well, we don't take the knight because then again the king reaches the
King
corner.
comes to b8.
Exactly. But here we just push, check, and king a6, and the game is over. Right, so black found the best move. Black played the move knight g4. All right, so what do we do now?
Say what?
What do we do now with white? This move isn't too difficult. It's a pretty straightforward one.
Well, I think we're pushing the pawn again.
We just push the pawn, exactly. Right, so we push the pawn, and now we're ready to go a7 and queen. So again, black has to find a way to somehow disturb me from doing that. And so black only has two moves. Black played the move knight e3. There's also the move knight c6 they can try. And as I was calculating during the game, I thought, okay, knight c6, I go king c6. And when I saw this, I was pretty happy. I thought, like, okay, here, there's nothing black can do. Black has to try to check me on this d5 square. And for the reason that after a7, black can check here. In case I go to c6, then the knight can, let's say, check me here. And I cannot walk out of the check. So there's always going to be knight b4. And if I come towards the knight, then the king reaches the corner. All right, so, all right, but in case of knight f6, here I go king c6. I thought during the game that this was winning. There's still the move knight g8, but we'll get to that in a second. But black played the move knight e3. And this is where it gets really, this is where I was breaking my head, so to speak. Because I thought, like, okay, if I push the pawn, black is just in time to stop me. Like, if I go here, there's a check. If I go here again, there's a check. And I can't get out of this, right? So I thought, okay, let me try. I played king c6, stopping the knight check. But here, black can go for the move knight f5. With the move knight f5, let's say I go a7, what does black do then?
Well, check, of course.
Where?
You go back to d4 and just do that process, or do you go to e7?
Right, which one do you guys think? Which one allows black to keep checking?
I would say d4.
All right, well, let's have a look. Let's say a7, knight d4. What does white do here? King b6. And black's out of checks, so this wins. This is pretty good for white if you have the king diagonally away from the knight like this, 2 squares away. The knight cannot check.
3-4 moves.
Exactly. So then, again, what does black do after a7? You just have to use the process of elimination here. So black has to go knight e7. They put me in check. If I go here,
Yeah, you can check it again.
check again. If I go here,
Then it's going to b4.
now knight b4, and it's a draw. Go to b5.
You just keep repeating those moves.
Exactly, they just keep repeating these moves, and there's nothing, I cannot get out of this. So here we just have to think like, okay, we see now what black wants to do. Black wants to check and like jump around, right? So then we think like, okay, where do we want to place our bishop? We see that we want to cut off that king, but we also want to make sure that black doesn't have all these checks. So what could be a good place for the bishop?
I would say bishop d6.
Bishop d6, excellent move, bishop d6. Now here, what happens in case black takes the bishop?
You just push the pawn.
Here we push the pawn, black cannot stop it, and white wins, excellent. So, question to everyone in the audience, and both in person and online. Black only has one move here to keep the game going. What is it?
Play knight e7, right?
Black has to play knight e7 check. And again, if I take the knight, the king reaches the corner, and it's a draw. So d6 is a very good square for that bishop, specifically because in a lot of these variations, there's not that knight b4 check that we saw earlier, right? So black played knight e7. All right. And what does, yes?
King b6.
Let's say king b6. Okay, we're threatening this. What does black do here?
So he's going to do knight d5, right?
Exactly. Now black goes knight b5. And yeah, they just keep checking. Like if you go here,
Because he can just go knight b4.
here there's knight b4, and black draws by force, attacking the pawn. And if you take, there's this. So here's, like I said earlier, I spent like an hour earlier on a position, but I found a concept here that I was very happy with. What does white do in this position.
He's got to move the king, that's for sure.
You have to move the king. So where should the king go?
Maybe king c5 to box the knight out.
King c5, very nice move. The knight can now not join the action. And so here's the thing. We're not threatening to go a7, because there's king b7. We don't threaten to take the knight, because there's king b8. But maybe we can hope that this position could be Zugzwang. If the knight moves, let's say here, then we go king b6 and a7, and we win. Because like now, all of the stuff with knight e7 does not work, because we go here, and the bishop covers this square. There's no longer a knight b4 check. All right, so there's the idea of Zugzwang, but then the question is what, and initially I saw this, but then I saw, wait, but what happens in case black goes here? Attacks my bishop. If I move the bishop back, let's say here, then again they go here. But what does white do in this position?
You just go to king b6, right?
King b6, and in case black takes,
Just push pawn.
you push the pawn, and in case of check,
King a6.
king a6, excellent, and black cannot stop the pawn. And this is really what this position resolves around. This position over here is Zugzwang. Black cannot move the knight, they cannot move the king, but they still have that h1. And like I said earlier, in case of knight f5, there's king b6. So here, black played h5. All right, so what do we do here with white? There are multiple moves that are winning, but just what is the winning plan, so to speak? And the nice thing is,
c4.
so what? Well, king c4 might be a move, but
But you can bring the knight to c6.
maybe the knight goes here. So I like this construction. We see that black is in Zugzwang. Now the nice thing is black can push up this pawn, but our bishop controls the square. And eventually black is going to run out of moves. And again, there are multiple moves that are winning here, but just what is the winning plan? King b5 has been suggested in the chat, but then black goes knight d5. So,
What about king d4?
well, king d4, then there's here, and that's an immediate draw.
That's not good.
Again, I like this setup, keeping the king and the bishop here. We know that it's Zugzwang. The knight cannot move, as then there's here. So black can only push this pawn. Oh, but I especially like the king here, because it's taking away these squares from the knight.
If you play king b4, you have knight d5 and knight c7, right?
I think that's an immediate draw. In case of king b4, knight d5, and then knight c7, and the king reaches the core. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exact. Yeah. So any other ideas? See, the moving the king doesn't quite work, right?
Well, you can move the bishop, actually.
So then we can move the bishop.
What do they call that, a waiting move?
We just call that a waiting move, yeah. So I think really moving the bishop anywhere is fine. In the game I played bishop to h2.
Okay.
All right, so this knight, can I go here, can I go here, because we take it. It can go here or here. So in the game my opponent played knight to g6. And what does white play here?
King to b6.
But in case of king b6, the knight goes here.
And then you're back in the...
Yeah. So a7, there's here, and then knight b4 check. We need that bishop, like that's a difficult thing. So what does white do here? How do we... Well, this one is not, don't worry about it at all, pawn pawn. This one is very difficult. Took me a long time to figure out, but what does white do here?
Well,
But again, I'll give you guys in. Black is running. Someone suggested bishop d6 in the chat, but then black goes here, and we're back at the same position.
Back in the same.
So how do we go about, and we have to put black in Zugzwang, I'll give you guys that. So we don't necessarily have to do something, we just have to make sure that black runs out of moves.
If you play king c6, you just go back to e7, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to get back to the b4 square.
Exactly, king e7, and yeah, because of here there's check.
Check and you're back to b4.
Yeah. King d6 was suggested by the casual player, but then king b8. And king b6, there's knight here. Sorry, knight here, and the knight starts jumping. Again, it's all about Zugzwang. We moved that bishop earlier, the knight goes here. Now the thing is, you have to wonder, like, okay, where can the knight go? The knight cannot go here, cannot go here. It's probably going to go back here, right? Because it needs to be on e7 to give those important checks on d5 and b4. But after knight e7, let's say black goes knight e7. What do we play? We know how we want to put black in Zugzwang, right? Like, let's say we pass here and black goes knight e7. What was the move there to put black in Zugzwang?
After knight e7?
Yep. We had a very similar position earlier.
Going to bishop d6?
Exactly. When black goes knight e7, we go bishop d6. And black is in Zugzwang. Again, the knight cannot move. The knight can go here, but then we go king b6, right? And in case of takes, there's a7, knight c4, and king a6, and we win the game. So now we see that, hey, if we can pass, black might end up in Zugzwang. They can push this pawn, but at some point they're going to run out of moves with that pawn as well, right? So then how do we pass black the move?
So we just make a waiting move?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe bishop g3?
Exactly. We go bishop g3. Very good. Yeah. Bishop g3, I mean f4 and e5 are not available, so we go here. Black goes knight e7, and now?
Now we do bishop d6.
And now we go bishop d6. Excellent. Black's in Zugzwang, so black pushes up the h pawn. Black went h4. All right. And here, what do we do now?
Bishop h2?
Bishop h2 is a move, but the problem is, now black goes here.
And he's just slowly advancing his pawn, maybe?
It's not necessarily that they're slowly advancing the pawn, but here we don't have a good waiting move. We don't have bishop g3, we don't have bishop f4, we also don't have bishop b5, and we can go here, but we want black to be the move in this position.
Tempo.
Right, so then the question is, how do we go about losing the tempo? Where do we go with our bishop?
e5 or f4?
Mm-hmm. e5 is a good move. I think f4 might be fine as well. But I went to e5. All right, so my opponent went here and now. And indeed, as someone suggested in the chat, in case black goes here, then we go bishop h2, and that's kind of, again, the position we want, right? Knight e7, bishop d6, knight e7, bishop d6. All right, so black played knight f5, and now?
So now do we just go king d6?
Well, in case of king b6, again, there's knight e7,
Okay.
and black is checking us. So that's still too early. We still have to put black in Zugzwang. So how do we do that? You guys are getting very close, but we just have to keep making waiting moves. Exactly, so we just go bishop f4. We again give black the move. Bishop h2 here is not the move, why not?
Knight g3.
Knight g3, exactly, the bishop was blocked out and now black reaches the corner and it's an easy draw. So we go bishop
You can't take because of the pawn.
exactly, and taking, we even lose, yeah. So bishop f4, black played knight e7, now what do we do?
Bishop d6.
Bishop d6, exactly, and black again is in Zugzwang. So, again, as we see in case of knight f5, we go here. In case of takes, then there's a7. This we know by now. And again, the difference, why do we want this bishop on d6? Because in case of here, we push, and we go here, and we win. All right, so in this position, black played h3. All right, so here, again, there's probably multiple moves, but what do we do here? I think, to be honest, pretty much every move is fine here. Yeah, bishop e5 should be fine. I played bishop h2.
Okay.
All right, and so my opponent played knight f5. And now I played bishop to f4. Again, passing black the move. All right, so here, let's say black goes knight e7. What do we do now?
We still go bishop d6, right?
We still go bishop d6. And the nice thing for white is that in case, let's say black goes here, again, there's this, and we queen one move earlier and stop black from queening. So that's also a nice detail in this position. All right, so black realized, like, okay, if they're knight e7, bishop d6, they're in Zugzwang. They can push up the pawn, but I'm going to take, and eventually they'll end up in Zugzwang again. So black played knight e3. Black played knight e3. All right, so what do we do now? We're getting closer and closer. What do we play in this position? How do we continue putting black in Zugzwang? Okay, king c6 looks very tempting, right? To go a7 and queen. But what does black do here? Again, like by now we know where black wants to check.
So he comes to maybe c2?
Knight c2, excellent. We know that this check on b4 is really important. So they can go to b4 and then go here. And here, there's not much that white can do. I mean, again, in case you push, there's check, check, and black draws. You cannot get out of this. So king c6 is too early. So how do we prepare that move? Again, we know now what setup we want. Okay, but in case of king b5, again, like the knight jumps here.
And it goes to c7?
And then he goes to c7, and it's a draw. It's an instant draw.
So maybe bishop e5?
Okay, bishop b5 is possible, but then let's say the knight can jump back again.
Okay.
So we know what setup we want, right? Okay, I mean, again, we know that these checks on d5 and b4 are important for black's defense. So what is the setup we need for white?
So we need the king either on d6 or
Well, king d6 again, then the king runs over. Like the king is fine here or here, but where do we want the bishop to make sure that black doesn't have all those checks?
On d6.
Exactly. So here we go bishop d6 again. And again, in case of knight f5, we go king b6. We've seen this already a couple of times. So black did something else. Black played the move knight to c2. All right. And now, what do we do here? This is another hurdle that we have to overcome. What is white playing this position?
Bishop f4. No.
Well, in case of bishop f4, black can go
Takes the knight back.
93 back.
Well, at B6 you cannot check you, and then you can move a pawn, and it probably will check you.
So you think king b6?
And then you can just do knight b4, right? Or can't you?
King b6 looks tempting, because what happens after knight b4?
And then
But
push
you
the
can't
pawn.
take, right? I mean, you can't take the knight.
Right, you can't take the knight, because black goes here, but what does white play in this position?
A7, maybe, but then you have knight d5 and knight c7 or no?
No, here actually we just have a7, because in case of check, both these moves are winning. You can just go to like to c6, and the knight cannot check us anymore. So this wins. But king b6, so we see knight b4 loses, but black has a way to draw here. How can you improve on that variation for black? King b7. On knight a3, again, we see that the check from c4 is not very effective because you just go here and the pawn queens. So we saw that variation earlier, right, with knight b4. It didn't quite work, but try to find a way to make it work. Black can somehow change the position in their favor.
What if you push the pawn first?
Exactly. Black goes h2, white has to take, and now?
And now knight b4.
And now knight b4. a7.
Because then you just have knight d5.
Exactly, and the checks
And
don't, yeah, because the bishop is not here. All right, so we see that king b6 does not work. So then what does white do here? But again, like we see that often the direct approach, it doesn't work, right? So maybe we have to look for Zugzwang again. Someone suggested king c6, but king c6 allows knight b4. And, oh, wait, here, if you take, you actually lose. So yeah, knight b4, but there's even, yeah. So again, I'll give you, yeah, again, it's about still, it's about Zugzwang.
Well, actually,
So what about bishop h2?
But okay, let's say we go bishop h2, then the knight jumps back.
Moves back. And then moves back again to the same position we were in.
Yeah, like we just came from here. And this bishop here is well placed. All right, so someone in the chat suggested king b6, but then there's h2. Takes and knight b4, as we saw earlier. All right, so what is the move here? Again, this is another nice finesse we'll have to find.
from here,
Hmm?
if you move the king, and we probably just went over this, but the king at c6, he's gonna check.
Right.
And
It gets
then
this
take
check.
the pawn, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so that's
It's
the
just-
idea, so maybe charge the knight.
You just want to make sure that this knight just does not join the action.
But if you play king c4, then you just check, and then you're back in time, right?
Yeah, king c4 is kind of a step in the wrong direction. Have to make sure this knight does not join the action. So, some people in our chats have found the move, but so I'll help you out. I'll help you guys out a little bit. We see that moving the bishop does not quite work, right? We really need this bishop over here, because if we move it back again, the black knight can jump back to e3, and it will get back to one of the squares where it needs to go. So we need this bishop over here. See, that moving the king up doesn't quite work, because this knight always somehow joins the action. So here, white is another.
So maybe it's king d5?
Well, in case of king d5, then again, check.
Oh, that's right.
More like b5.
So,
What about
mhm.
if king b5, do you have knight d4?
Let's have a look at that. Let's look at king b5. Knight d4, this check isn't very effective. Now we go king b6. Again, we have that diagonal domination of the knight that we talked about earlier. The knight no longer has any checks, and then there's a7, a8. So king b5, interesting move. And we pass black the move. This check isn't very effective. This check over here, I think we go to c6. And again, a7 is a big threat. So king b5 is actually the move. Black again is in Zugzwang. All right, so black played knight e3. All right, so what do we do now?
At this point, go to that diagonal again with the king.
King where?
Well,
We were just there.
Yeah, we were just there.
Yeah, king c5.
What about king b6 now?
Well, king
Is
b6.
it too early?
Check.
Yeah, it's too early. Black
You just,
checks here.
okay.
And in case of here, then again here.
Then, gotcha.
So king b6 is too early. But you guys are close. And our bishop is ideally placed. See that king b6 doesn't work. But what do we do?
King c6 maybe?
Exactly. We go king c6. And now we threaten to go a7 and queen. And what can black do? In case, let's say, black goes here. Or, yeah, like, again, black doesn't even get the check here. Like, let's say here, push, knight b4, we can even just take. So king c6. All right, so now we're ready to go a7 and a8. So black goes h2. Okay, what do we do now? This one's...
You gotta take the pawn.
We have to take the pawn, yeah, otherwise black promotes. Okay, so we take, and now black goes knight f5. Okay, so we're very close. You will see we put black in a lot of Zugzwang, so we got rid of the h-pawn, but we have to keep putting black in Zugzwang. Pushing the pawn up is still too early, because of check, here, or like check, here, and here.
Because we don't have the bishop on d6.
Exactly. So what do we do?
Bishop e5.
Bishop e5 is possible, but they check. Well, again, what is the setup that we want? Where do we want that bishop?
We want it on d6, right?
Exactly. So here we go bishop d6. So again, in case black takes, we push the pawn and we win. This check doesn't help. We go here, and this knight is going to promote. So black goes knight e7. And again, in case we take, the king reaches the corner. So what do we do here? We've seen this position already a couple of times, but
King c5?
king c5, excellent. And this is the final Zugzwang. And the king cannot move. And there's a7, the knight cannot move, can't go anywhere. So black played knight f5. And now? No, a7 is too early, then king b7.
Oh, I knew
So
that.
now king b6.
King b6. Again, we see that in case black goes here, they run out of checks. Let's say black goes here, by the way, what would you do with white?
King a6, right?
King a6, yeah. King c6 might still win, but there's knight c7. And in case you take, it's a stalemate.
Right.
Okay, so in this position, black took the bishop. And now?
I mean, now it's just a7.
a7, check,
King a6.
king a6, and that's it. Black cannot stop us from queening, and so I won this game. But yeah, great job, you guys. You guys worked your way through all the Zugzwangs. But yeah, no, it was really great to win this game. It felt like I almost created a study with all of these Zugzwangs, and yeah,
Please define Zugzwang.
Zugzwang is a German word. It's I don't know the English word for zwang, but it's like move, like you're forced to move. You're forced to make a move that worsens your position. And that's what we see here after king c5. In this position, black would like to pass. Black would just like to press the clock and be like, okay, it's your move. But you can't. You have to make a move. And same thing goes for white. White would like to just press the clock and pass the move to black. So black has to make a move here that worsens their position. If it's white to move here, we don't have anything that worked. Right? We saw that king b6, there's always knight e5. But the problem is that the black has to make a move. Right? So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I managed to win this game, and that actually helped me on the way to win the Spring Classic over here in St. Louis. But yeah, this was definitely perhaps one of the best games I've played in my career. But all of you guys did great. All right, so thanks everyone to both here in the audience and online on Twitch and YouTube. We're gonna sign off for today. But make sure to tune in tomorrow. I will be streaming and playing viewers from 1 to 3 p.m. Central. And I will be doing another lecture at 7:30 p.m. Central.